All right. Hi, Henry. Really excited to walk through what I've learned over the last 8 weeks with you. It's certainly been a significant journey for me. I've learned a ton about product as a project leader by trade. I work a lot with product managers, and this has really helped me to bolster my understanding of product management, as well as like get just a deeper understanding of what it takes to be a product manager, and also has just really emboldened me with the skill set, as well as like my confidence in being able to do this myself too. So it's been great. Just to jump in quickly, my as I think about product and I reflect on like my career, as well as what I've learned in the program, I kind of boil it down to these different ideas or principles. So I'll start with observing signals. So this is really just about like paying attention to the tension that you see in the market and what's around you, making guesses. Which for me is about really ascribing meaning to what you see. And ultimately, you have to have a starting point when you're dealing with product, right? So when you see a tension, like you have to make a guess of what does that tension mean? And then at the crux, right, you got to talk to people. So talk to humans, words mean things, really dig in and understand why, what's going on with folks. Mind the gap. For me, this is about keeping point B over point A. At the end of the day, you're trying to take people on a journey. And products help people go on that journey. And so keeping in mind point B, in other words, what's the goal, as well as what's in the arrow, or how do you get there from point A? It's really easy to see point A, but the arrow and getting somebody from, over that gap to point B is super important. The next one, be helpful. I think just in general, like it's just a good approach to business, right? Like product is about helping other people, back to that minding the gap. So, philosophically, I think like make people awesome, right? That's a good approach to bring to things. Next, start messy. So for me, this is progress over perfection. It's really easy to focus in and try and make things perfect, but especially when you're dealing with other humans, it's best to get things in front of folks and get their feedback on it to move forward. Next, leverage limitations. So there's always constraints, and it's best to, I find that, like lean into what those constraints are and use them to your advantage. And then lastly here, invest in impact. So at the end of the day, like you want to do something that's useful, that's usable, that's impactful, and makes a difference in somebody's life. So that's a long list, but my list in terms of like how I think about product, generally speaking. As far as the program goes, the process that I followed, if you're familiar at all with OODA loops, I tend to think of my process in this way: is observe, orient, decide, and act. I add an F in there, which is feedback. It's not listed as such here, but really, when I think about process, collecting insights, understanding what those means, generating ideas, bringing those ideas into a space of interacting with others, making an offer, reflecting on the feedback that you get, and then iterating after that. So in terms of this particular project and where I started, I chose to actually focus on product managers and product leaders. What you see here in this problem statement is a little bit further ahead in my journey from where I started. So I started out with the problem of focusing on the idea that product leaders really want to drive their product strategy with their team, but they often end up in a space where they're just handed a feature list to build. And I noticed this problem where it manifests itself in the form of unaligned teams or unmotivated teams, just a lack of customer impact. And as I started talking to people about that problem, I discovered really what was going on. A couple of two different things, really. One was that leaders just didn't have visibility into teams, and so they had a hard time with granting them autonomy. So there's like this communication or alignment gap. But the other thing I discovered is that product managers on teams are really like just super busy and consumed by the day to day, and they get lost in just distraction of dealing with their teams. And so they end up spending most of their time on what I would say is less important activities from a product management perspective. And that really got me curious. So I chose to pivot in that space and really begin to focus on this idea of product managers, and specifically more junior product managers who tend to get consumed by the day-to-day of their teams. And found, I made a bet that junior product managers are currently frustrated by a day full of administrative tasks. And what they really want to do is begin to focus their thinking strategically and shape the future of their product. And so that's where I started. After this, I made a hypothesis that administrative distraction is real and it's an acute problem. So I started to talk to people, and I started to talk to people in my own organization. I did some organic research through Slack channels, and I ended up having probably a little bit more than 6 user interviews in different Slack conversations, and gathered some feedback and documented it. An interesting thing I found, and it's kind of hard to see in the screen, but in terms of problem validation, this is a result of a type form. What you can see is that a junior product manager is interested in leveling up their skills, carving out time to think, setting product direction or strategy. But what their current challenge, what they're faced with in the moment, is this idea of quarterly planning, balancing technical debt, partner feature requests. So it's like that day-to-day grind that's getting in the way of them focusing on what they really want to accomplish. So after talking to some folks and sort of getting a sentiment that this is in fact real, I started to think about how can I help them in that space? How can I begin to attract them? And so I came up with this idea for an offer of helping product managers build a daily habit of thinking strategically with a guided journal. So if product managers are consumed by multiple Chrome browsers open with multiple tabs in it, they're getting hit from left to right by their teams. How can I help them to carve out space that's distraction free and gives them an environment as well as an environment to focus, as well as give them the capability to focus more strategically and with some very specific intended exercises to help them. So so I had this idea for a journal. I continued to do like talks with other people and get feedback on this idea. But what I ended up doing is I built a simple landing page with an offer to pre-order. I also did a Facebook campaign. I found that there's roughly a 1.5% click-through rate. I got a couple of orders from early on from colleagues, which was exciting. Awesome. To see the money come in through the landing page. But you can take a look here and see what that looks like. So this is an early iteration of the landing page here, plus the 3 different variants of Facebook ads that I put out. Ultimately, I found that the Facebook ads were not as effective as I had hoped. Right, there were people that were engaging and they were clicking through, but I found that I was getting more success in dealing directly, like in Slack channels and in Facebook space. So it was enough for me. I was getting enough traction that I believed that a distraction-free space where product managers can build a daily habit of thinking strategically about their product was useful. So I started to lean into this a little bit more, and thinking about like how can I begin to hone in on like what this really meant for folks. I realized that people needed to see like inside this product, this physical journal, and I got feedback like, can I see what's inside? Right? They wanted to know what was in there. And I also shifted a little bit in my approach, that in terms of asking for a purchase, I wanted to see if there would be interest in the idea of the daily habit builder. So I changed my landing page up a little bit, and I put a sign up form to attract folks who are interested in trying out or getting a 30-day habit builder, if you will. And that proved to be successful. So I posted in a couple of Slack communities. I got 15 to 20 signups immediately. I did one post in each of these different Slack channels. In the first day, got lots of signups, and then since then I've gotten 1 to 2 signups per day off of that, and really doing no promotion from it at all. And this is what it looks like here. So you can see the landing page here with get access to the early access PDF. Once they sign up for that, I do send them a type form as well that asks for additional feedback. So I've got folks that sign up for the PDF and then get presented with this type form, and I've got folks that have filled this out as well and providing me additional feedback on what's interested them about this. So the next hypothesis here, that the core value of the product is building a daily habit of thinking strategically, and that customers value this highly. So this is kind of where I am at the moment in the process of things. So my intent right now is to build this 30-day habit PDF, and I'll probably start with something less than 30 days. And get that in front of people and see how they react to it, and really kind of onboard an early set based off of those signups of folks that can give me some feedback on that PDF. The other thing that's interesting in sharing this, I got a question which led me sort of to what I think is going to be a next stage of this journey, which is, will there be a digital only option as well? So there's interest in the idea of building habits, but also interest in a digital version versus just a physical version too. In terms of product market fit, and I'll skip over to the next slide here, which will be more meaningful. So the things I'm going to keep doing right now, continue to outreach to folks, continue my conversations with the people that are signing up from that landing page. I do believe that I need to tighten up the copy a little bit more, speak more directly to the idea of daily habits. I'm going to begin exploring the digital option, and then also, as I mentioned, focus on a habit builder test by getting some initial habits put in a PDF form that folks can try out and interact with and see what the feedback is on that. So just in terms of jobs to be done, I want to carve out time to think strategically. I want to practice my product skills, and really at the end of the day, I want to build an impactful product, right? Like that's what folks are after. So as I mentioned, this is more of a repeat of what I just said, but I want to continue on the path of doing more customer solution interviews, getting tighter in terms of like what would be most meaningful to folks who are looking to build their strategic thinking habits. And then also want to explore this idea of a digital solution or product journal engine, if you will. So just in the early stages of thinking about that, really want to spend more time talking to folks and digging in on it before I move forward with that too. And that's it. I feel like it went really fast. This is me.
No, it was perfect. It was just under 20 minutes, I think. Really good, really good, actually, really impressed. I think also just, I was thinking when you were speaking back to when we first started, we started speaking like 5 months ago, and I think, you've had a lot on over the last 5 months, right? In personal life and work life. I think it's really nice to see, it's rewarding for me to see you like bring this together and also come in, really from the start there, like really come in like high energy, like confident, really inspirational. I think ultimately, that's just a big step up from project management into product managers, like, leading. I think these soft skills and coming in and engaging and saying like, imagine this in the context of a business, right? You're sort of building up this momentum, like here's what we've done and here's what we're going to do next. And getting that right is really, really key. So I think that was really nice to see. Awesome as well. Yes, it's 2 sales, but again, it's like giving you some signal. The fact that, no promotion, you're still getting a couple of people per day is great signal. So again, it's like, this is all going in the right direction. I think you've, in terms of the process, done it exactly as you should do, which is, make sure, okay, if you're going to come out with an offer, are people going to pay for it? After that, you can worry about, okay, how you're going to deliver, which is where you're at now. And again, trust the process, like go through the product market fit engine, gradual, consistent improvement, and you're going to get there as well. So I think you're, in a really good place with this. So I think specific comments, actually another general comment, I think also, so there's firstly that sort of, inspirational aspect of leadership, which you brought in today. Second, like executed the process really effectively. I think third thing, that you have a good product brain. I think I saw that at the beginning, but you're starting to now arm yourself with the right frameworks. So I think that's great to see, like you have all the foundations to be a good product leader. I think specific comments on the presentation, like great tone. Again, you come in high energy. You don't catch people at the beginning, you've lost them. So I think good. Principles, I felt you could have distilled it down to maybe 3 or 4 things. Again, thinking like, okay, if we're pitching this externally, people just don't remember that many things. However, they were all good. And I think firstly, and most important, that this is an exercise for you to actually pause and reflect on like, what are my principles as Justin? So I thought they were actually very good. I loved the mind the gap comment as well. Process was great. Yeah, you made it your own. You clearly thought through this, not just read off the slides, but thought, okay, how have I applied? What has my process been over the program? Great, because again, the more comfortable you are with that, the far more effective you're going to be at bringing that into a new organization. Problem statement, yeah, great to hear you talking through like how the iterations worked and the learnings you got along the way. And the problem statement was crystal clear. That comes from the work you did, right? Speaking to people, iterating. It's a direct result of that. USP, I find this really interesting, right? Being a product person myself, but this sort of space that you're seeing this unique take and saying, okay, yeah, there's all this stuff about strategy. Actually, people just need a space, sort of safe space for strategic thinking, which is a really cool USP or unique insight to pursue. I like the word, you use the word bets, right? Placing bets, great way to think about it. Great, excellent. Good visuals as well throughout, like the type form, sort of just showing the highlights. You're communicating core message, excellent. One thing you could do, I suppose, is we didn't talk about this in the program, but using some market research around like what are product managers' frustrations. There's lots of studies done out there. I think what we usually do, right, once you've got more comfortable, first protocol is, okay, what's out there in the market, and then you can go into the interview. But a really small thing. MVO and the sale, yeah, excellent. Again, you stuck to your guns there rather than, I think it's easy to go like, I'm just going to distract myself by building a digital prototype, right, of some form, and you stuck to your guns and sort of did Facebook ads. You went for it essentially to push for the sale, which is cool to see. Again, just the fact that you don't need to promote this and you're getting interest is a really good signal coming from it. And then one specific point, your 30-day thing. So one tactic I would apply is, this is how I did the first cohort. So you say, for example, you say, okay, here are going to be the 6 things we cover over 6 weeks. You only actually complete the content 1 week ahead of them. So for example, you could do like, okay, you're going to do a 30-day email series. What do? You just stay 2-3 days ahead. Why is that important? Because you're not wasting time on a solution you haven't validated. Secondly, you're going to be gathering so much useful feedback from them that you don't want to waste that, right? You want to be integrating it into the content itself. So it's a really close, lean feedback loop. That'll be one tactic. And then, general comment, the process was great. I think you're clearly comfortable that everything we've taught you, put it into action, like you've seen results. And I think, as I said, just trust now in the process when it comes to the product market fit engine, building out the solution. And I think only onwards and upwards.